So typecasting in Hollywood is like a golden cage. It pays incredibly well, audiences love you for it, and the roles keep coming. But for some actors, that cage starts to feel suffocating. So they take the risk and they try something completely different. And what happens? Well, the audience rejects them and critics savage them. And then all of a sudden, that golden cage, well, it doesn't look so bad anymore. These are the actors who tried to escape their typecasting only to instantly regret it. Starting with Dane DeHaan, when your lead actor looks more like a villain than the actual villain. Dane DeHaan built his career playing intense, troubled, slightly creepy characters in independent films. Chronicle in 2012 made him a breakout star as a teenager who gains superpowers and slowly becomes a villain. He was magnetic, unsettling, and perfect for roles that required emotional darkness and depth. But then Hollywood decided DeHaan should be an action star. And in 2017, director Luc Besson cast DeHaan as the lead in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, a $180 million science fiction epic based on a French comic series. DeHaan would play Valerian, a charming, confident, wisecracking space agent who saves the universe alongside his partner Valerian, played by Cara. His character was supposed to be a Han Solo or Star-Lord type character, confident, flirtatious, and a bit reckless. But there was one massive problem. Dane DeHaan is none of those things. He has a more intense, brooding, understated, and introspective on-screen presence. Audiences immediately questioned the casting choice. One viewer perfectly summed it up when they wrote, "Dane as Valerian looks like a young teenager, a kid. He looks way younger than Cara, making it look more like a relationship between two siblings where Cara is the older sister." And the film opened in 2017 to savage reviews. Critics praised the visuals but destroyed the performances. They said DeHaan and DeLevine had zero chemistry. He looked uncomfortable trying to play a cocky action hero. They said every attempt at charm came off as forced, and every romantic moment felt awkward. Valerian cost around $180 million to make and would have needed at least $400 to $450 million to break even, but the movie only earned $226 million worldwide. It was one of the biggest bombs of 2017, and Luc Besson had bet his entire career on the film, and it merely bankrupted him. For DeHaan, the failure was devastating. He'd been positioned as the next big action star, and instead, he'd shown that critically acclaimed indie actors don't automatically translate to blockbuster leads. After Valerian, DeHaan went right back to small, intense, character-driven roles. Topher Grace. When Hollywood spent hundreds of millions to learn that some actors can't be menacing or threatening, no matter how much CGI you throw at it. Topher Grace spent 8 seasons on that 70s show, playing Eric Foreman, the skinny, sarcastic, lovable nerd who was the emotional center of the series. He was goofy, relatable, and completely non-threatening. When the show ended in 2006, Grace wanted to prove he had range. So he took on the role as Venom in Spider-Man 3. Venom is one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains. A giant, hulking, terrifying alien symbiote that bonds with Eddie Brock, a rival photographer consumed by hatred for Peter Parker. In the comics, Eddie Brock is massive, muscular, and very, very intimidating. And he's the physical opposite of Peter Parker in every way. But Topher Grace is around 5'10" and weighs maybe 160 pounds. Anyway, Spider-Man 3 was released in May 2007 and became one of the most divisive Spider-Man movies ever made. Audiences hated almost everything about it, but they especially hated Topher Grace as Venom. He wasn't menacing, he wasn't scary, and he looked nothing like the Eddie Brock from the comics. The film made $892 million worldwide, but the critical response was harsh enough that Sony scrapped plans for Spider-Man 4 and rebooted the entire franchise. And after Spider-Man 3, Topher went right back to romantic comedies, ensemble dramedies, and supporting roles where he could be the funny sidekick. He never played a blockbuster superhero villain again. Jesse Eisenberg. The right choice for socially awkward tech bro, but the wrong choice for evil genius mastermind. Jesse Eisenberg made a very successful career out of playing fast-talking, socially awkward, slightly neurotic characters. His breakout role was in Zombieland in 2009 as Columbus, a nerdy, cautious, and socially awkward college student whose survival was a testament to his meticulous and often neurotic approach to life. This was followed by his career-defining role in The Social Network in 2010, playing Mark Zuckerberg, which earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. And then he became the go-to guy for Hollywood casting directors who are looking for someone to play a smart guy who talks too fast, doesn't always understand social cues, is full of quirks and nervous energy. This was his niche, and he was brilliant at it. But then, in 2016, Eisenberg was cast as Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Lex Luthor is one of the greatest villains in comic book history. He's calm, calculated, ruthlessly intelligent, and commands every room he enters. He's the physical embodiment of corporate evil and unchecked power. He's not quirky. He's not awkward. He's terrifying because of how in control he is. But Jesse Eisenberg played Lex Luthor like a twitchy tech bro having a nervous breakdown. He delivered lines in a rapid-fire staccato that made him sound like he'd consumed 12 energy drinks. Batman v Superman was released in March 2016 to mixed reviews, but the perception of Eisenberg's performance was universal. Fans hated it, critics hated it. Even people who liked the movie admitted Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was a disaster. The character was supposed to be menacing and terrifying, and instead was quirky and erratic. The film made $873 million worldwide on a $250 million budget, so it was a commercial success. However, the backlash was so severe that Warner Brothers started distancing themselves from Eisenberg's version of the character. He appeared briefly in Justice League, but his scenes were kept very short, and Warner Brothers made it clear they had no interest in bringing him back. After Batman v Superman, Eisenberg returned to playing quirky neurotics in smaller films like The Art of Self-Defense, Valerian, Zombieland Double Tap, and hasn't tried playing a villain in a major blockbuster ever since. Cameron Diaz. When America's Sweetheart tried playing a 19th century Irish pickpocket. By the early 2000s, Cameron Diaz had it figured out. She was one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood, playing the same role over and over again. Basically, the bubbly, charming girl next door in romantic comedies. The Mask was her first breakout role. There's Something About Mary made her a star, and Charlie's Angels proved she could play a serious action role in a major franchise. Then her other movies like My Best Friend's Wedding, The Holiday, What Happens in Vegas proved her typecast worked. Audiences loved her infectious energy, her megawatt smile, and the way she could make even the cheesiest romantic comedy feel fun. Then Martin Scorsese came calling with Gangs of New York. But this was not a romantic comedy. It was a gritty, violent, historical epic about gang warfare in 1860s Manhattan. And Cameron Diaz was cast as Jenny Everdeen, a tough Irish pickpocket who survived by her wits on the brutal streets of the Five Points. It was the kind of prestige role that could transform her career. A chance to work with one of cinema's greatest directors, alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis. So the film was released in December 2002, after years of production battles and delays. And while critics praised the film's ambition and Day-Lewis's ferocious performance, they were less kind to Diaz. Her performance as Jenny has been mentioned over and over again as a prime example of poor casting, and one of the worst Irish accents in film. One Reddit user summed it up perfectly. Hey, you know who would make a great Irish lass? This half-Cuban woman from California. But the problem wasn't that Diaz gave a terrible performance. I mean, no one can deny that she's naturally charismatic, and she also had moments of genuine tenderness and vulnerability in the role. But she never felt like an authentic, resourceful 19th century woman, who had to learn street smarts the hard way in brutal living conditions and in one of the toughest time periods of New York's history. And that was a serious issue for a movie obsessed with period accuracy, especially when compared to Day-Lewis, who radiated menace and unpredictability when he was on screen. And her accent didn't help. Irish immigrants in 1860s New York had hard, rough edges worn down by poverty and survival. Diaz's accent sounded nothing like any of that. It wasn't offensive, it was just unconvincing. And in a film this ambitious, unconvincing was almost worse than bad. The movie made $193 million worldwide on a $100 million budget and was nominated for 10 Academy Awards. But Diaz's performance became one of the main things critics pointed to when discussing the film's weaknesses. But you know what? She'd taken the risk, worked with Martin Scorsese, and proven that she had the courage to stretch herself in a role outside her comfort zone. However, after Gangs of New York, Diaz went right back to what worked. Shrek sequels, more romantic comedies, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, and she never tried another serious period drama again.